From the Houston Public Media Newsroom, I'm Gail DeLauder. Voting for Texas's party primaries is underway, and Houston Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is fighting to hold on to the seat she's held for nearly 3 decades. The 74-year-old's main challenger is Amanda Edwards. She's a former Houston City Council member who's in her 40s. News 88.7 political reporter Andrew Schneider says a race in the state's 18th congressional district is surprisingly close.
Houston's Acres Homes neighborhood sits near the heart of Texas' 18th congressional district. Zelma Fields recently attended a political forum at a community center here. Asked about her main concerns in the congressional race, Fields doesn't hesitate.
Main thing, try to get some more jobs in the area. Maybe the younger people find some work to do.
Sharon Darden has similar concerns.
My issues are housing, affordable housing, and especially there are a lot of single mothers, and that's mine. Housing that they can afford to raise their kids in, and still able to buy groceries.
Arla Hudson has a slightly different focus.
Housing and home repair, even though we had the issue with the Harvey funds with the state, there are still programs that are available through HUD that can help accelerate and assist people who have problems in their homes.
Those concerns are of little surprise in this congressional district. According to U.S. Census Bureau data, the district's poverty rate and its unemployment rate are nearly twice the national average. But ask the 3 of these women how they plan to vote in the congressional primary.
I have an idea, but I haven't had a chance to really talk to the other candidate.
I haven't made up my mind.
I haven't made up my mind. Not yet.
It's important to note these are women who have lived in the 18th for decades. If Sheila Jackson Lee can't automatically count on their votes, the Congresswoman has a problem because younger voters in the district have a definite preference.
My name is Ozemina Ozo Namadim. I am 32 as of yesterday.
Namadim says the district's representative needs to focus on human rights because of the area's diversity. But he, too, is concerned about bread and butter issues.
I would say economic development, infrastructure, healthcare, all of those, really critical policies, public policies that are important.
And while Namadim says he doesn't think Jackson Lee has done a bad job in Congress, he does think she represents the past.
I know who I'm leaning towards. I will say that, I'm voting for Amanda.
So is Javon Blair. He's fresh out of college and preparing to become a CPA. Ask him what he thinks are the main issues facing the district, and he'll tell you.
Infrastructure, access to health care, and also to affordable housing.
Blair cast his first vote in 2020, and he voted for Sheila Jackson Lee. He's thankful for her years of service, but
I think Craig Washington stated the best. It's time to pass the torch.
Washington is Jackson Lee's predecessor, and he's endorsed Edwards. On policy matters, there's not a lot of difference between the incumbent and her main challenger. In previous elections, Jackson Lee has always been able to count on her record of delivering for the district. Michael Adams leads the Voter and Civic Engagement Institute at Texas Southern University.
For many of the federal grants and the dollars that come into Texas Southern University, she always make it known that she was instrumental in terms of bringing dollars to Texas Southern and also to the University of Houston.
That record of delivery isn't something voters can easily write off. And Jackson Lee is one of the 2 longest-serving members of the Texas congressional delegation. James Douglas teaches at TSU's Thurgood Marshall School of Law and has lived in the district for more than 40 years.
I know in the House, you don't have much power unless you've been there for a while. So seniority is very, very important in the House. And so I'm going to be influenced by seniority.
Even when she hasn't been successful, she's always had strong messaging around her working for constituents. Here's Jackson Lee on the floor of the House last May.
In about 24 hours, the state of Texas will take over a majority-minority school district that has been fighting to overcome the pandemic effect. But there are children who do not eat unless they have the programs that our public school system has been able to provide for them. They are hungry.
But among likely voters, Jackson Lee is only leading Edwards by 5 points. That's according to a new poll from the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs.
I would say that the incumbent is vulnerable.
Renee Cross is the Hobby School's senior executive director.
For someone that has been in office as long as the Congresswoman, to have an opponent come in and push it to 5 points, I think is certainly noteworthy.
Cross thinks part of the reason that's happening is because the district has changed over the last 30 years. There are now more Latinos than black residents, and Latinos chose John Whitmire over Jackson Lee in last year's Houston mayoral contest.
The Congresswoman certainly had a considerable amount of media coverage during the recent mayoral election, and frankly, not all of that coverage was good. In addition, Amanda Edwards is certainly a viable candidate.
Edwards was a highly popular at-large member of Houston City Council who left office in 2020 in an unsuccessful run for the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate. She then tried to run for mayor, but dropped out when Jackson Lee entered the race to avoid splitting the black vote. Edwards' mayoral run, though, left her with a huge war chest. She currently has more than $800,000 on hand, roughly 4 times what Jackson Lee has. And Edwards is putting that advantage to work with ads on TV and social media.
When you listen, you'll hear the people.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for change. From my uncle's Fifth Ward shoe shop to my father's battle with cancer, I know what our community needs, and we deserve more.
It's time.
Jackson Lee has yet to run a single commercial this campaign. In the past, she didn't need to. She's repeatedly won her primaries by more than 70% of the vote. This time, the race is likely to be far closer. For News 88.7 In Depth, I'm Andrew Schneider.